The movie starts with Colt Seavers, played by Ryan Gosling, a seasoned stuntman reminiscing about the contributions of stunt performers to the entertainment industry. Despite the risks involved, Colt loves his job, especially because he is smitten with Jody Moreno, portrayed by Emily Blunt, a camera operator with dreams of becoming a director. However, a tragic accident on set leaves Colt with a career-ending injury and a strained relationship with Jody. 18 months later, Colt is working as a valet driver and avoiding any contact with Jody. When a former colleague mocks him, calling him the fall guy, Colt retaliates by performing reckless stunts in his car. His life takes a turn when he is offered a job as a stunt double for the famous actor Tom Ryder, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, in a new sci-fi film called Metal Storm, directed by none other than Jody. Reluctantly, Colt returns to the world of stunts, facing his fears and insecurities about working with Jody again. As he performs daring stunts on set, tensions between Colt and Jody resurface, leading to emotional confrontations interwoven with discussions about their past relationship in front of the crew. Throughout the film, Colt must navigate his feelings for Jody while proving himself once again in the high-stakes world of Hollywood stunts. Gail pays a visit to Colt in his trailer, updating him about Ryder's disappearance after associating with some dubious individuals. She entrusts Colt with the task of finding Ryder to save Jody's film production within the next 48 hours. As Colt heads to his car, he reflects on his moments with Jody, all the while listening to Taylor Swift and shedding tears. Just then, Jody arrives, and Colt has to maintain his composure. Jody joins him in the car, emphasizing the significance of the film to her, and Colt pledges to ensure the production stays on track for her sake. Colt went to Ryder's apartment in search of him, but was unexpectedly ambushed by Iggy Starr, portrayed by Teresa Palmer in Metal Storm, who happened to be Ryder's girlfriend. The altercation led to some chaos in the apartment before Colt realized that Iggy was wielding a prop sword. In an attempt to clarify his intentions, Colt explained that he was looking for Ryder for the sake of the film. Iggy then directed Colt to a nightclub frequented by Ryder and advised him to seek out Ryder's drug dealer. Colt gains entry to the club by dressing in flashy attire and encounters the drug dealer, Dune, also known as Matus. Expecting to meet Ryder, Colt instead receives a spiked drink from Dune and faces confrontation from his henchmen. Despite being under the influence of the drug, Colt successfully takes down 3 of the goons before pursuing Dune outside as he attempts to flee in a cab. In a bold move, Colt leaps in front of the cab, preventing Dune from escaping. Dune reveals that he was paid to drug Colt and advises him to seek out a person named Kevin at a hotel and request a fruit platter. Amidst the chaos, Colt experiences hallucinations, including a vision of a unicorn. At the hotel, Colt crosses paths with Jody, who confides in him about the studio's interference in her film's love story. Later, Colt encounters the concierge, Kevin, played by Ben Gerard, who hands him a fruit platter, which is actually the key to Ryder's hotel room. Despite several failed attempts to unlock the door, Colt decides to break into the room by forcefully knocking the door down. Jody calls him and they discuss various ideas for the film while engaging in playful banter. Subsequently, Colt stumbles upon the lifeless body of yet another stuntman, Henry Herrera, in the room. When Colt contacts Gail for advice, she cautions him against involving the police, but Colt disregards her suggestion and speaks to an officer who approaches him due to an illegal parking violation. While informing the authorities about the body found in the ice-filled bathtub, they revisit Ryder's room only to discover the tub completely empty, and Colt still gets a ticket. The next day of filming, Dan expresses his discontent that Jody seems to have been influenced by her conversation with Colt, as she now has grander and more intricate concepts for the shoot. To enable the use of deep fake technology and incorporate Ryder's face into the finished piece, Colt fills in for Ryder. Later on, Jody extends an invitation to Colt for karaoke, which he gladly accepts. On his way to the karaoke bar, Colt encounters Alma Martin, played by Stephanie Hsu, Tom's assistant, and a well-trained dog named Jean-Claude, whom he has collaborated with in the past. When Colt inquires about Ryder, Alma mentions that she last saw him and Henry at a wild party before being called away by Gail. Alma took possession of Ryder's phone as Dressler, his head of security, had been pressuring her about it. Knowing that there is potentially incriminating evidence on the phone, Alma expresses her willingness to turn it in but insists on receiving producer credit on Metal Storm. Just as Colt agrees to look into it, both he and Alma are suddenly tased by Dressler, who then kidnaps Alma in his truck. Colt quickly springs into action, enlisting Jean-Claude's help and commandeering a truck to give chase. Meanwhile, Jody is left waiting at the karaoke bar, feeling let down by Colt's absence. Undeterred, Jody takes the stage and delivers a powerful rendition of Against All Odds, Take a Look at Me Now, while Colt finds himself in a fiery confrontation with Dressler's henchmen after a daring leap onto their van. With Jean-Claude's fierce attacks, the tables quickly turn in Colt's favor as they manage to stop the van. Colt crashes through the windshield but emerges unscathed, swiftly making his way to the karaoke bar with Jean-Claude in tow, only to discover Dan there, who informs him that Jody has already left. Colt and Dan give Ryder's phone to their fellow crew member, Venti, Zara Michalis, to hack into it, but she needs his password. The two men visit Ryder's apartment and sift through his numerous post-it note reminders until they finally uncover the password in plain sight. Once Venti unlocks the phone, Colt and Dan stumble upon a video featuring Ryder, Iggy, and some of their friends with Henry, who jokingly remarks about Ryder not performing his own stunts. In the video, Ryder attempts a stunt but accidentally knocks over Henry, resulting in his death. Shortly after, Venti contacts Dan to let them know that the news is reporting on Henry's death and accusing Colt as the main suspect. Dressler and his henchmen arrive and begin shooting at Colt and Dan, prompting them to react quickly. In the chaos, Dressler shoots and shatters Ryder's phone out of Colt's grasp. Colt and Dan engage in a skirmish with some of the henchmen, during which Colt manages to make his way outside and leaps onto Ryder's boat, crashing through the roof. Inside, Colt comes face to face with Ryder before being knocked unconscious. Colt wakes up to find himself bound, with Ryder demanding his phone back. He confesses to murdering Henry and framing Colt for the crime, revealing that the entire cover-up was Gail's idea after he sought her help. Ryder also reveals that he orchestrated Colt's accident because he believed Colt was stealing his spotlight. As Gail meets with Jody to inform him that Colt is the prime suspect in Henry's murder, Colt discloses that Dressler destroyed the phone. In a desperate attempt to set Colt on fire, Ryder's henchmen pour kerosene on him, but Colt spits it at Dressler when he tries to ignite it. Colt boards a boat and tries to escape in reverse. Eventually, Colt reaches Jody and tries to explain the situation, only to be pursued by the villains who cause his boat to crash and explode. Despite the explosion, Colt manages to leap to safety. Presumed dead and labeled a suicide, Colt's death is staged, with the villains using deepfake technology to superimpose Colt's face onto Ryder's body in the footage of Henry's murder. Colt manages to reach Dan and enlists his help in sneaking back onto the set while disguised as an alien from the movie. Upon encountering Jody, there is a mix-up that leads to Jody attacking Colt until he finally reveals his true identity. Just as Colt is about to explain himself, Jody surprises him with a kiss, but their moment is interrupted by the arrival of Gail outside. Listening in on Gail's conversation, Jody learns shocking news about Colt's supposed death and Gail's plans to use VFX for Jody's big car jump stunt in the film. Gail is also focused on Ryder's final monologue, which adds to the tension of the situation. Once Gail departs, Colt and Jody devise a strategy to expose Ryder's guilt by persuading him to confess during the car jump, as he will be wearing a mic and often forgets that he is being recorded, allowing his unfiltered thoughts to be captured. The crew prepares for the pivotal scene and films Ryder's monologue. Jody convinces Ryder to get into the car under the guise of needing a close-up shot. Colt then emerges and drives off with Ryder, sparking a pursuit by Dressler and his henchmen. Jody and Dan join forces to fend off the goons, buying enough time for Colt to extract a confession from Ryder, implicating Gail in Henry's murder and framing. Colt executes a daring canyon jump, rendering Ryder unconscious. Gail summons a chopper to extract her and the incriminating tape from Ryder. With Jody's assistance, Colt gets propelled toward the helicopter and engages in a fierce battle with Gail and Ryder, ultimately reclaiming the tape and landing safely on a crash mat. Colt and Jody revel in their triumph with a well-deserved kiss. Metal Storm finally makes its way to theaters with Jason Momoa taking over the lead role from Ryder. The movie becomes a huge hit and Alma is credited as a producer. Colt remarks that just like the heroes in the film found their happy ending, he and Jody found theirs too.